Look at this crazy dude. That's a Canadian, but he's not a salty Canadian. That's me. Hi, I'm Edwin. I'm going to be teaching you Pebble development. Hey guys, welcome back to my Pebble development tutorial series. Who's ready for another day of learning? I sure am not, because I'm not going to be learning anything. I'm going to be teaching you how to use the voice API on Pebble. So the voice API, if you have a Basalt watch or greater, so that's Pebble time, basically any watch that's not a Pebble original or a Pebble steel, will have the microphone on it as of recording this tutorial, and it will take in voice dictation. So what are we going to do today? Well, we're going to implement the voice API so that we can click the Add Cities button and have it pop us up a little screen that says please enter your speech, so please speak, and it will then capture your speech, process it. Pebble will do the work, so we're not going to worry about that because that would be scary. And then we will get the text back and look up the weather data with the text that was provided to us. We will also handle any errors by passing it into our freshly created error window. Okay guys, so let's get started here. We're going to go into our main window.c. And this is where the action is going to be happening. So we're actually going to be depreciating or taking away something that we've had in our select callback function. So previously we've been using this select callback just to fire an action so you guys can see something executed. And now we're actually going to be using the select callback for some of its original purpose, some of its intended purpose. So what we're going to do here is we're going to set up a switch that's going to use the cell, it's going to use the section member from the cell index pointer. And we're going to have two cases. We're going to have case 0 and case 1. Case 0 is the first section, case 1 is the second. And case 1 is what we're going to be working with today. But before we do that, we have to clean up this below here. So we're going to delete this error window stuff. Then we're going to copy all of this sending code. Okay, we're going to copy it or cut it if you like to do that. And we're going to make a new function called send weather request. Okay, bear with me here. We're going to pass in a string, so a character pointer called city. And then here, instead of typing Toronto, we're going to pass in our character pointer, city. Okay, so that's going to send off whatever we pass into this, and hopefully if JavaScript works, it will send us back the data we want. So now we're going to go into our case 1, and we're going to type a new function right above this menu select callback called fire, or let's do launch dictation. Okay, now this launch dictation is going to have no parameters, and we're going to call it within our menu select callback function. So now what's going to happen is if you click the add city button right here on the bottom row of the bottom section, then it's going to launch this dictation section. So in our case 0, we'd actually later deal with the different rows, but for now we're going to ignore the case 0 and just leave it like this. Okay guys? And in launch dictation, this is where we're going to start to have a little bit of fun. So we're going to define a dictation session pointer, and we're going to call it session. We're going to set it equal to this new function, dictation. I don't know why I can't spell that right. Dictation session create, and the first parameter is the size of the character pointer that you want to pass in. So we're going to be creating that right now. So let's do a static character pointer called last text, and we're going to set it as the size of not 4 but 40. Okay, then we're going to pass that last text variable into here, and we're going to pass in for our second parameter the actual dictation session callback function. So we're just going to type dictation session callback for now, and we're going to type up the actual callback in a minute together. Then the next parameter is null, and that again is our context. We're not going to be using it. Then after we type that, we have to type dictation session start, and then we pass in our session that we want to start. Okay. And let's type up the callback function, and we're gonna actually cover everything in 1 minute. So I'm gonna slow down and go over everything that's going on here. So dictation session is the first parameter called session, and then we're gonna have a dictation session status called status, and then we're gonna have the string, the character pointer called transcription, and then we're gonna have our context. Okay. Now that we've set that up, let's slow it down and we're gonna go over what's going on here. So what you've done here is when the add button is clicked, the launch dictation function is called. It goes here, it sets up this character pointer, or this character actual sort of array, and then we create a dictation session called session. And we use this function called dictation session create. And what that does is initializes a dictation session, and if there is dictation abilities, with the size of the text that you want. So you're going to have a maximum text size of 40 characters. And then you pass in the callback. So whenever something happens with the dictation, so whether it's good or bad, it's like marriage, you know, this dictation session callback is going to be called, and it's going to say, yo dog, you know, I've got this dictation session here. You're going to check the status of it. And there's only one good status, which is success. And then the rest are all crap. And you hope that they never happen, but sometimes they will. Then we have null, which is our void context over here, and we're not going to be using that yet again. And then we call dictation session start, and what this does is actually launch the window on your Pebble that Pebble has already created, already built into the OS, has already built into the API. It's going to launch that window and do the rest of the work for you. So you basically only type 2 lines to actually create a dictation session and launch it. It's pretty sweet. So you could actually create the session earlier if you wanted, let's just say theoretically, and you could call dictation session start whenever else you wanted. You could call that in another function, maybe throw an app timer in there. You know, you could mix it up. It doesn't have to be right after the other necessarily. So then what happens is whatever happens to the speech comes back up here to dictation session callback, which we provided to it, and it passes us our dictation session pointer that we've already initialized here, and then it also passes us this thing called dictation session status. Now this is an enumerator, an enum, and it is the status of how the dictation session went. So again, there's only one successful one. There's no, you know, multiples of success. There's just one success and a ton of errors that you actually might have to deal with. So that's fun. And then you have this character pointer called transcription. And what this is the actual text that came from the person's mouth, the user's mouth. So whatever they said will be in this string, this character pointer. And here we have our context again, and although we love you context, again, we're not going to be using you. We're just going to put you in the corner and hope that you don't cry. Okay, guys, so now that we've got this set up, let's all take a deep breath and get typing, because we're going to type a switch with this status, and our first case is going to be dictation session status success. That's quite a mouthful. We're going to break that, and then we're going to do a default for the rest of the errors. Okay, and then what we're going to do here now is deal with the success. So if it's successful, we already have our send weather request function set up, and we're going to utilize that right now. Send weather request, we're going to pass in our transcription pointer, and then in the default case of any error at all, then we're going to pass in the error to the error window that we created earlier. So I created a nice little convenience function. There's a paste bin in the description, so pop over there, grab the paste bin, copy paste it, and put it above send weather request. Okay, this function is called get readable dictation status, You pass in a dictation session status for the only parameter, and what you get back is a small description of what happened if there was an error, or also a success, just because I want to cover that case. And if there's an unknown error, something was passed in that doesn't exist, it will just return unknown. So we're going to use that to send to our error screen. So we're going to say, what was our definition here? We're going to go back in error window. Error window set error text, maybe? Error window set error. Okay, yeah, and then error text. So we're going to go error set error, and then we're going to pass in our get readable dictation status, and we're going to pass in our status that's in our callback, and then we're going to call error window show. I think that's it. Yeah. And okay, perfect. So now we've got that set up. The only problem is that if you are also running AppLight support, so if you're running original Pebble support, black and white, those watches do not have support for this dictation session. You will not be able to get any data out of the user from the add city. So we're hoping, I'm hoping that you have a Basalt watch or greater, or a Chalk watch, and you're able to use the dictation session if you actually do have a physical Pebble. Because if you don't, this dictation session will be null. So if the session is null, then you should app log that crap. Alright, and say, session is null, give it a good scream. And then we'll probably say, are you running AppLight? Then we're gonna just return this so that it doesn't start our dictation session and crash our app. Okay, so now that we've got that all written down, in theory, we should have it so it's running nicely. So we might run into an error. Well, let's see what we got here, dies. Guys, dies. Dogs. Damn, nice. Okay. So here we go. Got our weather app. We're going to click Add City. And I don't know how this works in Cloud Pebble, so we're learning together. Oh no, that's compass and accelerometer. Okay, what's going on here? Okay, so basically, guys, I'm not sure if the voice API actually works within Cloud Pebble. Dictation not available. Okay, great. So there was an error, but we should see our error window pop up and give us an error. But it doesn't give us an error because we actually have a smaller size of our character than we need. So let's bump this 20, maybe up to 60 just to give it some space. And then we'll click run again, and we should see that the error this time will actually work. So if you guys actually have a physical watch and you successfully dictate, so let's just go here, one sec. We'll just click back. You can see user rejected, success. So that means that as far as Pebble knows, the user or the voice command was working fine, and there was no error, and the user rejected it, so the user stopped it. So you might not want to have this case pop up. You might not want to have it, display an error every time the user hits the back button just because they want to cancel their add city request. I bet you don't, because that would be pretty crappy. So you're going to probably want to take these two dictation session status members, and you're going to want to make a special case for them. So we're just going to give you an example. So I'm going to copy this one, the transcription rejected, and we're going to do a case for this one. We're just going to break it so it does nothing. We're going to run again. And if you have a physical watch, as I was saying, and you run this, you should be able to dictate. The examples that I used when I typed this code before I did this tutorial, I used New York and Toronto, and they both got the data successfully. So we'll go here, we'll back out. You can see it doesn't give us an error anymore because we handled that case separately. So yeah, if you can dictate things on your actual physical watch, I'd recommend doing so, trying it out a couple times. Go to compilation then and click view app logs, and I'm pretty much guarantee you that if the weather API is working, that data will have been sent to the JavaScript, because we do, in our successful tutorial last time, we did have the weather request going through properly. Now you might be saying to yourself, what the heck am I going to do with Applite users? You know, I love them with all my heart, but I cannot provide them with speech to text. Well, that's unfortunate. You're going to have to try a couple other solutions. I'm not going to be covering them in this tutorial since we are only covering voice APIs. Personally, I would recommend looking into this thing called, I believe it's pronounced tertiary text. And what it allows you to do is basically type on Pebble. So you can enter the text that you want. It has a nice library. Just look it up. And that is the main solution for Applite. So that's it for this tutorial, guys. Thanks for watching. As always, play around with it. You know, mess around, do some different cases, and hope to see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.